Several years ago when I was living in Topeka, I ran into a friend of mine one time downtown, and we got to passing time and checking up on what's been happening with each other. And he told me that he and some friends of his had started a running club and that they were going to stage an event. This was in the spring. They were getting ready to stage an event in June. And I said, well, that's interesting. Tell me about it. What's it going to be like? He said, we decided to do a triathalon. Swim, bike, and run. It won't be on the scale of the Hawaii Ironman, of course. It'd be greatly reduced in distance. He said, we're going to swim across Shawnee Lake at a point where it's about 5/8 of a mile. We'll do I think about an 18-mile bike run and then about a 6.5-mile run. Are you interested? I said, well, I don't know. Maybe. I had started to run at the time. I didn't run until I was 50 years old. But I said, I don't know. I'll think about it. So I thought a while, and I gave him a call. I said, Phil, I'd like to enter, but on one condition. And he said, what's that? Well, I'd like to be put in the last heat for the swim to start off, because I don't swim. And I don't want people splashing the water in my face, and I don't want to get in anybody else's way. And he said, well, that's no trouble. So I put my name in. Then I got to thinking, well, I really don't swim that well. And when I say I don't swim, what I mean is that I've got kind of a modified dog paddle and crawl. I never learned how to swim correctly, so I can't keep my head in the water. I have to keep my head above water. And so I didn't really know I had enough stamina or skill to make it across the lake, but I decided to practice. Makes sense, right? I bought 10 passes down at the YMCA, and I had great ideas, but work got in the way and I got busy doing other things, and a couple of weeks after I bought them I thought, well, I need to start doing this. So I went down and I swam for a while, and that was okay. I swam the way I told you I do. And it must have been 2-3 weeks later I thought about it again. Well, by the time June the 9th rolled around, the day of the event, I think I had used 4 of the passes. I'm not telling this to tell you that I'm a disciplined trainer. So race day comes, and I show up with about 30-40 people, I'm not sure how many. And they had them set in heats, and all the other heats took off, and I'm in the last one, as Phil had promised. And I waited until my people got way out in front of me, and then I started. Well, I'm sure it was comical. It wasn't comical to me, but I'm sure if anybody watching would have had fun with it, because I did my dog paddle, crawl, and they had designated the lane that we were to swim in by lines of buoys, one on the left and one on the right. And after I had been swimming for a few minutes, I bumped into the buoys on the left, and I corrected, but I overcorrected, and it wasn't long before I hit the buoys on the right. And I compensated again, and of course it wasn't long before I was back on hit the left ones. And one of the club members was sitting in a boat about halfway across. He was monitoring the swim, and he saw me, and he jumped into the water. And he said, swim toward me. Well, I could focus on him. And so I set my sight on him, straightened up a little bit, and when I got even with him, which is about a little over halfway across, I guess, I said, thank you. And he said, well, hell, fella, he said, you're swimming twice as far as everybody else is, which I'm sure is true. Well, I finished the swim. I got to the place where I could stand up, and one of the young helpers came running down to see if I was all right, and he said, are you okay? And I said, yeah. He'd obviously seen me floundering around. I said, I'm great. I can't drown on dry land. Well, I don't know whether he caught that or not, but he said, well, are you too tired to ride the bicycle? I said, oh no. I said, I had time to rest on the way over. That was my humor, and I don't think it was his. Anyhow, I got the bicycle and started the ride. The ride was fairly uneventful. There were a few hills, mostly just a nice ride. And I rode my bicycle a lot, so I was very comfortable there. And I finished the ride, got off the bicycle, and started to run. What I still remember about the running is that after riding the bicycle and I got on the ground to try to run, I couldn't move my legs like I should. And so I kind of did a shuffle. I walked, run for, I don't know, for a while, and then got into the rhythm, and I made the 6.5 miles, and I finished. And I felt really good about this. Now my time was 3 hours, 21 minutes, and 11.6 seconds. Now if you know anything at all about running, triathlons, marathons, you know that that kind of a time for a full marathon is just not much. Needless to say, I broke no records. I thought for a long time that I was the last one to come in, but I've had people since tell me that there must have been a couple of other stragglers. But that didn't make any difference to me. I found the tent, I got my banana and my Gatorade, and everybody was congratulating me on finishing the race. That's the thing I've always liked about running, is how supportive everybody is, the people who stand on the sidelines. And it didn't make any difference if you're one of the jackrabbits and you're setting a new record, or whether you're an old codger or what, is that people are always cheering you on. I wish our whole world would be more like that, you know. I rested for a while and went home. And didn't forget about it, of course, but I put it aside. I had other things to do. And as time went on, I pretty much forgot about it. And then one day, several months later, I ran into Phil again. And I said, Phil, are you going to do the 10-man again? And he said, yeah, oh yeah. He said, we had such good response that we're planning another one about the same time. Are you going to do it? And I said, I don't know. I'm thinking about it, but same as last year. And he said, well, we're thinking about it. We're going to use the same route. But we're thinking about getting people to qualify. So we kind of trim it down and make it more competitive. I said, Phil, I know what you're doing and what you want to do, and I know you want to make this a first-class event. And I understand qualifying and narrow your participation down, but I'd like for you to think about that a little bit. And he said, what do you mean? I said, well, for one thing, if you're going to have to qualify, I'm not going to enter. I just absolutely cannot do any of that fast enough to be included. It's just not going to happen. But aside from that, just think about it. You've got your rabbits, your jackrabbits, your 20-year-olds that are blazing new paths, setting new records. And you got your kids watching this, and that's inspiring. Kids think, wow, that's great. But then you've got folks like me, and people look at me and people like me in my age, and when you're looking at the rabbits, the feeling is, I don't think I could ever do that. But when you're looking at me, people are saying, you know, if that old guy can do it, I can do it too. I said, I think older runners, on the whole, are going to be more inspiring if you want to keep this going. Just think about it. Well, he called me back sometime later and he said, Max, I really would like to have you in the event. And we've thought about it and we decided not to have qualification. So I did it again. But that year was it was memorable for me. I thoroughly enjoyed it. When race day came, as I said, I had only used up just a few of the swim, so I certainly can't tell anybody how to train for something like this. I like to tell the story because it's important to me, but I don't think that the real reason that I'm telling this is certainly not to put myself up as being some kind of, certainly not a hero or somebody who's achieved something of super dramatic proportions. I'm not telling it to you because I'm a mentor. I certainly, I'd be the last person to teach anybody how to train for something like this, how to swim, do all of that kind of stuff. I think the reason that I tell you the story, and as I've said before, I think anytime anybody tells you a story, you need to ask two questions. One, who are you? And the other is, why did you tell me the story? I think the reason that I tell you the story is that I see myself as a reminder. Because every time I think about it or tell it, I'm reminding myself, and hopefully reminding whoever hears it, of some of the values, some of the fun, some of the excitement in daily living. I'm sure if you've been paying attention up to this point, you've already figured out that this story can be a metaphor. It has been for me. I relate it to a lot of things that I have done or tried to do. And that's the way I offer it to you, as a reminder. Because, you know, I hope you like the story, but that's not the point. The point is your story. How you live your story, how you approach life. And if this helps in any way, then I'm glad. And as always, I appreciate you listening.